again, I can't call grandma and grandpa because they're nowhere nearby. I don't have any friends who can watch my child because they don't want to get their own children sick. So even in the groups we belong to, there was no way we were going to be able to ask my friends to be like, hey, can you watch my kid? Because then their kid would have been sick too, and that wouldn't work, right? So we had to figure out a way to make things happen. Hi there, I'm Mistelle, an American girl who called the cornfields of Illinois home until over 10 years ago when I started navigating the chaos of life overseas. If you've ever felt that itch for something more, that whisper telling you to break free from the ordinary, you're in the right place. This podcast is your backstage pass to the wild ride of moving abroad. I'm here to pull back the curtain on the real journey, sharing stories that are funny, dramatic, and sometimes downright unbelievable. We'll explore the gritty details, from battling culture shock and navigating tricky visa processes to celebrating those small victories that make it all worth it. So whether you're daydreaming about a new life abroad or already in the thick of it, grab your passport and let's explore what it really means to live life beyond borders. Welcome to Broadly Speaking. Hi, welcome back to Broadly Speaking, the podcast all about living, moving, and thriving abroad. I hope you enjoy today's episode. If you're new here, welcome. If you're welcome, I can get there. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been around a while, welcome back. I'm so glad you decided to join us today. Today's episode, I think, is one that is really important for parents who are considering moving abroad. And I've been in this situation a couple of different ways. And I think it's a really important lesson and a really important consideration when you're moving abroad because it's really scary. And that is, what do I do now that I don't have my tribe? When you move to another country and you leave your parents or your family, you leave your friends, you leave your tribe behind, right? You've moved somewhere new. And all of a sudden, what do you do when your kid gets sick? It seems so simple, but I can't just drop my daughter off with grandma and grandpa because they live 4,000 miles away. So when she's sick from school or she's out for any particular reason, how in the world do I manage her and working full time? Because I have a full time 9 to 5 job. I work 40 hours a week. Oh my goodness, how am I going to manage? Well, it is scary. And there are ways that you can do it, even though it seems completely improbable and impossible at this point, especially if you're dual income and kids, right? If you're both working full time in an international world, you're both working full time and you don't have a babysitter close by, you don't have a nanny that you've hired recently, things like that. How in the world are you supposed to handle it? I'll start by telling you a story. My daughter, when she was, I think, 17 months old or so, came down with chickenpox. Now, my husband had, I can only think of it in German. It's Rosa Gürtel. It's, oh my goodness, I've lost it. It's shingles. That's the word I was looking for, shingles. My husband came down with shingles. And unfortunately, my daughter contracted chickenpox because she hadn't had the varicella vaccine at that point. So there we are. She's 17 months old. She's not allowed to go to daycare because she has chickenpox. It's just not allowed. Obviously, that makes sense, right? You shouldn't send your child to school when they're sick. And so what do we do? Well, ultimately, this was a really complicated situation. My husband was required to be in the office for his role. He was not allowed to work from home. He 100% absolutely had to be in the office. This was also pre-COVID. So hybrid working really wasn't as understood in the industry as it is today. But at that point, hybrid working wasn't a thing. So I was working full-time in the office. My husband was working full-time in the office. And here we are with a 17-month-old that is not allowed to go to school. And what in the world are we supposed to do with this situation? I can't call grandma and grandpa because they're nowhere nearby. I don't have any friends who can watch my child because they don't want to get their own children sick. So even in the groups we belong to, there was no way we were going to be able to ask my friends to be like, hey, can you watch my kid? Because then their kid would have been sick too, and that wouldn't work, right? So we had to figure out a way to make things happen. And essentially what we did is the following. I asked my work for I went to my boss and said, "Hey, boss, my daughter is sick. What can I do?" And I went to HR because my boss was in the US, so she had no idea what the rules were in Austria. And I said, "Hey, HR, what is allowed? My daughter is sick. She's not allowed to go to daycare. I know that I could take my sick days. I think maybe, possibly, how do I manage this?" And what had ended up happening in Austria, and the same applies in Switzerland, is I'm allowed to take a day off to take care of my sick child without having to take her to the doctor. Now, in the case of chickenpox, obviously I had taken her to the doctor, but we can take a day off, like one day. If your daughter or son is sick, you can be home with them. It's no problem at all. And it doesn't count against you. You don't have a certain number of sick days, and if you take more than 5 sick days a year, you're out. It's not like that here. There are limits, kind of, but it's understood that you're a parent and you need to take care of your child. So go take care of your sick kid. Now, in the case of obviously the chicken pox, she was out for more than a day. She was out, I think, an entire week before she was allowed to go back to school. So I actually had to be out for a longer period of time. And what I ended up doing was talking to my HR team. And all I needed to do was provide a doctor's note that said, my daughter is going to be out of care for a number of days, whatever it was. And I was given that time off of work as a leave of absence. And I was paid for the whole time. I didn't take a no pay that week. I was paid the whole time, and everyone was totally fine with me being away for a week. It was just what it was. Now, I had to ask about it. I did make sure that I had all the right paperwork. I was worried about short-term disability, all the things that the United States has. I was worried about all of that, but in the long run, it worked out that I didn't get penalized. My paycheck was the same. I had the same number of sick days. So when I got sick, it was perfectly reasonable for me to be off for a few days. It's just more common to care about the human being who's working and not just the work that they're getting done here. Fast forward to 2020, and we all know what happened there with COVID, and we're all working from home. It got a little crazier because my daughter at that point was about 2.5, and it was still just me at home. My husband was still needing to be in the office every day during COVID. So he was getting COVID tested every day, going into the office. We were living still in Austria where the restrictions were super, super, super high. Like I wasn't allowed outside with my daughter for more than a certain number of hours a day. I wasn't allowed to be more than a certain number of miles from my house. Like it was super, super restrictive. And so here I am again, working full time. And by then I'm working in a super high stress job with a very big responsibility, to say at the very least. And I had to figure out how to manage her and myself at the same time. And again, we weren't using a babysitter. We weren't even allowed. Obviously, daycares were closed. So I worked it out where I got up at 5 in the morning and she was getting up at 7 at that time. So I would get up at 5 in the morning and work for a couple of hours, catch up on emails from the night before, make sure I got myself set up for the day. So I got 2 hours of work in that way. Then I would play with her and be with her from 7 until usually around, I don't know, 11 to 12. And typically during that time, we would take a walk in the morning. And if I had a morning call, I would schedule it such that I could take a walk with her with headphones on and take the call at the same time. So if I had a call, it was usually between 8 or 9 in the morning. And so I would take that call on a walk with her. So she would get her outside time, be able to walk and play and do all those sorts of things while we were walking. And I was able to take a call while still participating with her. So usually that was 1 hour in the morning that I would do that. So we're up to 3 hours a day. During her nap time, she stopped napping at 18 months. God help us all. So we didn't really have, let's say, sleeping time, but we would make her go into a room and play for 2 hours. And that we called that rest time. She was allowed to play. She was allowed to sleep. She was basically allowed to do what she wanted in her room, but she wasn't allowed to come out of her room until her clock turned yellow. Yay, Grow Clock, by the way. It's not a sponsor, but holy moly, it helped us so much. So she would be for 2 hours in her room. And during those 2 hours, of course, I was working. So we're up to about 5 hours in that day of like actually working while also taking care of my 2.5-year-old. By the time that she came out of rest time, it was around 2:30-ish because we would have lunch. She would go into rest time. It was 2 hours of rest time. It'd be about 2:30-ish. I would have usually one call. So we would at around that time. So she was allowed to watch one episode of television, Mickey Mouse Club, whatever, I don't know, something on Disney Plus at the point. So she would watch that. Usually it was about 30 minutes. And then during the other 30 minutes of my call, I would be playing with her. I would be doing puzzles or something quiet so that she was occupied and I was able to still continue with my call. I was really strict about screen time at that point in her childhood. And so that 30 minutes was actually also because she was potty training. And that was her privilege for potty training that she got to watch Mickey Mouse. I know, it was wild. True story. We were on a call. I was on a call during this period. My daughter was potty training. It was one of our morning calls. So she hadn't gotten to watch Mickey Mouse yet that day. I happened to be unmuted because I was talking about something. And here comes my little 2.5-year-old walking around by my laptop. And she says, I get to watch Mickey Mouse if I go poopy in the potty. It was wild, right? But then everybody on the call laughed. I was talking to, like, we were doing a multi-million-dollar deal, hundreds of millions of dollars of deals at this point. And there I was with the CEO of a company. And here I am, me with my 2.5-year-old announcing that she gets to watch Mickey Mouse if she goes poopy. And everybody understood it. Everybody was fine, like laughed about it. It definitely broke the ice of chaos that could be going on in that project. And in the long run, I think it helped show the reality of motherhood and life and all the things that we do. So usually by then I'm about 6 hours into my day and she's awake and participating and we're playing and doing all those things. And then after she would go to bed around 6:30, we were really lucky. She was a great sleeper from birth, but she would go to bed around 6:30. So after she went to bed, like we would have dinner, have a bath, go to bed. I would probably work for another 1 or 2 hours, at least at the end of the day. So I would work a total of 8 hours. It might have been super broken up. It wasn't the most organized 8 hours in a day, but I was able to work that time and get my time in. And of course, while she was playing, I might be chatting with somebody on Teams, or if she was, busy doing something, I would be able to check an email or two on my phone. But it was a great way to still get in 8 hours of work without feeling like I was overwhelmed or, oh my gosh, I never get any time with my daughter, or she was spending the entire time on a screen. It absolutely wasn't the case. And that was really helpful for me. Like, it made me feel like I wasn't using screen time too much. I did use it a little bit, I'm not going to lie, but I wasn't using screen time too much that she wasn't paying attention or felt neglected or anything like that. So now that she's a bit older, she's now 7, she goes to school. So if she's homesick from a day of school for whatever reason, I swap out my days in the office. I work in a hybrid role. So I'm allowed 2 days at home and 2 days in the office and 3 days at home. So it's 40% in office time. I usually go in Mondays and Tuesdays, but of course, if I need to, I can switch that out and go on a Thursday or whatever. So if my daughter's homesick with me for a day, then I just hang out with her for the day and I work. She can play, she can read, she does her homework, all those like normal kid things. Now that she's a bit older, we still allow limited screen time, but if she's sick, she gets probably about an hour of screen time in that day while I'm working. She still has what we call rest time. If she's home from school, she still has to take at least an hour or two in her room with the door closed and rest, especially if she's not feeling good. That's like a mandatory thing. Shout out to Grow Clock because we still use it. It's still awesome. Again, there's no affiliation there. It's just because I love it and I think it's super cool. And it's helped us a lot with keeping her in her room and understanding when she can come out and when her time's up. So she knows now if mommy's on a call, she's not allowed to break into the room. There are certain calls where I tell her it's fine if she breaks in, if it's with, for example, if it's with my boss or if it's with people who know her since she was 2, everybody's pretty cool about just letting her be part of the conversation if they need to be. But I recognize wholly that it is really hard when your kids are sick and you don't have people close by to help. And it definitely becomes one of those situations where you're like, oh my God, what in the world am I going to do right now when I don't have someone to call on and someone to ask for help, and you can still make it happen. Yes, sometimes I look back on COVID times and wonder how I survived getting up at 5, going to bed at 10 every night, being solo with a 2-year-old all day long because my husband would get home around 7 or 8 o'clock at night after she was in bed most of the time. It was a lot, like a lot, a lot, a lot. And I look back and I'm so grateful for that time as well because I really got to spend some concentrated time with her. So just by adjusting my day, just by having, okay, it's going to be a little hard. If she's sick and I don't know she's sick that day, right? She wakes up sick, then maybe I make it where I work a little bit later in the evenings or I work an extra hour here or there during the week to make up the time. I don't clock in and out, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you are someone who clocks in and out every day, who has to be in the office every day, make sure that you can talk to your HR business partner or HR team in your local area to say, hey, what can I do if my child is sick? Make that part of your interview process or part of your relocation package process. Discuss that. What are the rules in the country for if my or in the company, whatever it is, if my child is sick? Can I take a day off and not be penalized? Like a sick day and not a holiday off and not get penalized for it? Is there a way that I can work from home for the day in order to make sure that I'm there for my child as well? There's so many things that you can ask, and people are so human today in a way that before COVID we didn't have these opportunities. You absolutely have the opportunity to ask. And if worse comes to worse, there are emergency care situations, and at least I know of them in Austria and Switzerland, where we can call an emergency nanny and they would come and stay. They are super, super expensive here. I don't remember the price in Vienna because we never used it, but in Switzerland, they are super expensive, but they do exist. My company is a global organization. It offers that actually for us. If it became necessary, we're able to call in and get help. The challenge, of course, would be if I was traveling or my husband was traveling and one of us had to be home with her when it isn't as flexible, but we work in flexible worlds where we're able to do that. For a less flexible world, if you're working, for example, in a post office or a grocery store or something where you need to physically be present, then certainly double check with your HR people and see what the rules are if your child is sick. See how you can make that happen without feeling bad. Share with your partner. Don't take it all on by yourself. If you have a partner with you, I I regret honestly having put so much pressure on myself when my daughter's sick. I am not great at asking for help. It's something that I struggle with as a whole. And so I didn't really ask my husband to quote unquote help me at all when my daughter is sick. He normally goes into the office, but certainly if I had a huge meeting and my boss was, my boss's boss, for example, was in town, then maybe I would ask my husband and say, hey, would you work from home today instead of me? And then he can work it out with his company. But there are ways to make it happen. Yes, it's harder. Yes, it's less convenient. Yes, there's times where I'm like, God, I wish my parents lived closer. And also, I am grateful for the life that I can give my child here that she wouldn't get back home. So for me, it's definitely a trade-off that you have to, consider what is available for you. Talk to your HR people, make sure that you understand what the rules are at your company and your country that you're moving to or that you live in, whichever it is. And then also, if possible, you do make friends when you move. So we have a really good friend with family that has a child about my daughter's age. They're actually a year younger in school, but only 3 months younger in age. And when necessary, we can call on them to be like, hey, can you help? They live closer to my daughter's school than we do. They're on the list. So if my daughter needs to come home from school sick, they're working from home that day. They're more than willing to go grab her until I can get out there and pick her up. And it's completely reasonable to ask for help if you need it and to make the community around you. You will find an expat community around you no matter where you move to. There's always someone who you will meet and become friends with and be able to work that out. So don't feel like that should stop you from making the choice to move abroad. Everything is figure outable, as my daughter says. We can figure out anything we need to. It's just a matter of how much do you want it. And if you want to move abroad, you will figure it out together with your family, together with your spouse, together with your child. If you're moving just you and your child, you will make things happen. And it's okay if, you need to take a day off work because your child is sick, or you need to work from home because your child is sick, or you need to talk to HR because you need to work around a schedule that's a little crazy. Whether it's 5 days, 1 day, 2 days, whatever it is, you'll figure it out, and just take a deep breath and know that everything will work out the way that it can and should. And remind yourself what a wonderful experience you're giving to your child long term, and what a wonderful experience you're giving for yourself. Every time that these chaos questions come up, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's so crazy. Take a deep breath and remind yourself why you're doing this for yourself and for your family. And that will help ground you into the moment and then give you the breathing room to figure it out. I think that's it today. I think I talked enough. I hope this episode was helpful for you. I hope that this will help relieve some of the stress for you if you're thinking about moving abroad, or if you're already living abroad. I hope that this gives you an idea to say, oh, that's what I could do next time my child is sick. Don't do it alone. Be part of the community. We are together in this. I'm living the life with you. I'm an expat as well, or living abroad, living far from home as well. So please feel free, follow along on Instagram at I am Mistelle. Join me for all the things that are chaos on this podcast, on Broadly Speaking. If there's something that you want to know more about, if there's something that you're curious about living abroad, feel free, DM me over on Instagram. I am really good about catching up on my DMs there. So feel free, let me know. Otherwise, please feel like you could maybe and subscribe. Yay. It really does help the podcast. It gets then pushed to more people. So I would love if you would like and subscribe. Even giving a rating would be really great too, so that we have more and more people who we can help figure out how they'll move abroad. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this episode of A Broadly Speaking. I will see you on the next one. Bye. Thanks for tuning into A Broadly Speaking. If today's episode got you dreaming a little bigger or thinking a little braver, go ahead and hit subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's ready for their own adventure. And hey, don't be a stranger. Come hang out with me over on Instagram at I am Mistelle for the real, unfiltered life abroad. Keep that passport handy, and remember, life's too short to stay in one place.